Oh, looks like we're. Hello, hello. Cancel. It's Shabbat Shalom. Good morning to you all. This is Bill Bullock, and it is time for our discussion of the Torah this week. So I thank you for joining us. I look forward to having your questions, your comments, as it may be. Let us drop a line to us. Let us know where you are and where you're watching this, and what you have to say about life. I pray for you. I pray for your lives. I pray for your families, your households, for your countries. I pray for your well-being. I pray for your welfare. I pray for your wholeness and your wellness. May there be a blessing upon your life. This is the Sabbath. And on the Sabbath, what a wonderful time. The Holy Creator of the universe has decided that we can access His holy things on this day. He has made His holy things available to us. Try to close the door. See, that'll help with the noise. His holy things are just beyond the veil. We can reach beyond the veil and reach into the holy realm and find His holy things on this Sabbath. What blessings He has in store for us. What wonderful things He desires to give to us. So what will we find today when we go beyond the veil? This is the Parsha called Vayechi, and he lived, and he had a life that was a burgeoning, a blessing to the world. Vayechi is the way it's phrased in the Hebrew tongue. The first word of the Parsha in Genesis chapter 47 is Vayechi. And so we find that beginning point. Where are we in the greater context, though? The greater context says that we are in the prophetic epilogue section of the book of Genesis. The book of Genesis is about to conclude. We just seem like we just got started. It seems like we're just reading in the beginning, or a sheet a few weeks ago, a few days ago, maybe a few minutes ago. But here we are, and we're going to conclude the conversations about and studies in meditations on the book of Genesis today with Parsha Vayechi. And he lived. There's something about life, something about the opportunity of life, the blessing of life, something about the purpose and the meaning of life that is all tied up in the book of Genesis, and that opens a door, creates a segue into a larger form of life that we'll read about in the remaining books of the Torah, with purposes, with meanings for our life. So the fact that we live is step one, or the basic foundation. But what happens and what is the result of our life? That is what's going to be built upon in the subsequent books of the Torah. So we welcome you to this journey. Let's dig right into the book of the story of Vayechi. The background, just briefly, is that now all of Israel has left the Promised Land, left Canaan, left Eretz Yisrael, actually, what it really is, and have moved, all 70, have moved to Egypt, and they're now set up in the land of Goshen. They're being provided for amply by Joseph, who is still alive and still active. And oh, how wonderful it is to have the reconciliation, the beautiful things that happened last week in that part of the prophetic epilogue, the midpoint. We have this great restoration and reconciliation of the tribes, the people coming together, the father with his sons, the sons coming back to the father, and the sons joining forces with each other. Yehuda arising. We saw these great things happen last week in Parsha Vayegash. But now we're at the stage of saying, well, what then does life mean? We're now in this place where Yaakov and his entire family, all 70, are in Goshen, except for 3. There are 3 that are not in Goshen, and that's Joseph and Manasseh and Ephraim, who are the sons of Joseph, and Asenat, the priestess of On, an Egyptian. And so they are living in palaces in Nof, or Memphis as it's now called, or maybe one of the other cities of Egypt. But that's their duties, that's their responsibilities. Joseph is a very busy man. He has a very high level of calling upon his life, and Pharaoh is taking full advantage of that process. So he doesn't get up to Goshen very often. He's not part of our world, but yet Yaakov is still in charge. He is still patriarching the community. He is living the fullest version of his life that he can in this form of exile. And what will we learn from him? What do we learn from him? What do we learn about life from him? And what do we learn about life from Joseph and then from his brothers? Well, the Parsha that we're reading, I call it the great segue. This is a segue between the era of the patriarchs and the private individual relationship and encounters and interactions a man or a woman or a person, an individual, has with the creator of the universe. That's the foundation of everything. So that's what the book of Genesis has been about. How to build, how to let the Holy One build. He's really the builder of this process. The architect, the engineer, he's the construction manager. He's the one who builds the relationship. But how to cooperate with him, how to not to fight him, and how when we do fight him, and when we do make mistakes, how to restore that relationship and let him put us back on track. Well, that's what this whole book's been about. Individual relationship with the Creator. In the midst of that, ain't it? And then we get so many more people. I mean, Abraham and Yitzhak and Yaakov and now Joseph, and these individual relationships with the Creator of the universe. Have you got one? And how strong is it? And what does it mean for your life? Well, that's just the beginning, though. Once you get your relationship with the Holy One, once you build your life around that relationship, how will your life, your Haya, how will your life impact the world? How will it influence other people? How will it change the environment, change the atmosphere, change the world? That's what we're going to be reading about in the books of, we call them Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, all the way through the rest of the books of the prophets and the writings, all the way through the Brit Hadashah, or the apostolic scriptures, as some like to call them, the letters, all the way through the book of Revelation. We started a Revelation stream that begins with this individual relationship that the patriarchs, our fathers, our forefathers had with the Creator of the universe, the patterns that set the patterns for us to follow in building our individual relationship with the Holy One. Oh, but there's so much more than that. There's so much more. We get a chance to impact the world. We are called, that's our reason to be on this earth, is to impact geography, physical land, spaces, cities, organizations, institutions, wherever we are, wherever the sole of our foot shall tread. Our job is to have this impact. I call it the footprint calling. We're supposed to leave a footprint of the Messiah. It's not supposed to be our footprint. We're not supposed to make a name for ourselves. We're not supposed to somehow incite or excite the world about how wonderful we are and how wonderful our ministries are and how powerful and anointed we may be. What we are here to do is to spread the fragrance of the Messiah. What we are here is to spread the beauty of our Creator and His ways and His love and His mercies and His kindness and His grand plan of redemption and restoration into the world. So how will we do that? What are the secrets? So this is the Parsha of the great segue into the greater calling, the calling as a people, as a collective. We are more than just ourselves. This is not just about us and our Creator. This can never be about just that. That's just the foundation. Our calling is to be a part of a grand plan that involves multitudes and generations and continues building slowly and slowly. It has sometimes put one step forward and two steps back, but it keeps building, and the kingdom is being built at all times. Will we be part of the building process, or will we be caught up in our own dramas and our own traumas, our own emotions, our own hurt feelings, our own wounds, our own scars, which are real, but they are not to define who we are or define our impact upon the world. That is our relationship with our Creator and our responsiveness to His calling. So, what we have in Parsha Vayechi is a treasure chest that we are going to have access to. We are being given today, all this week we've been given it, but on this teaching day, the day when we actually stop on the Sabbath and just consider what all He's done for us, we will have this access to a treasure chest that contains secret things of the end days, essential strategies for the next phases of our engagement with the world on behalf of the Creator of the universe. What will life be like in the latter phases, the latter stages, in the days upon which we live in, and the days that are coming in front of us? the days our children will live in, the days that we will face, the days we will have to overcome many struggles. What will life be like, and what will be our impact upon it? Well, the secrets and the strategies that this treasure chest that we're going to read contains are tools of tikkun. Now, that's a Hebrew word, and it means to repair or to fix. It has this idea of restoration. Are you a restorer? Are you a fixer? Are you one who wants to make things better, or do you just like to complain about things the way they are? Are you just offended? Are you just obsessed with how horrible the world is? Is your primary message, this is terrible, that's horrible, this is a bad thing, the world is full evil, men are evil, governments are evil, medicine is messed up, science is a fiasco, education is a disaster? Is that your message? Because it's a true message, it's just not the message of the king. The message of the king is, we can fix this. We will fix this. God will fix this. And he will use human beings in ordinary situations and circumstances, through this relationship with him, through the covenant, through the callings upon our life. He will fix the world. He will restore. Now, he won't do it in the way we would like him to do it, which is prestos, changeo, zappo, make it happen, whop, all of a sudden we're all living in a utopia. That would not teach us many lessons. That would not fix anything, really. We just mess it up again. So instead, what he's doing is he's building in us character. He's building in us hope. He's building in us faith, or emunah in the Hebrew, with the idea of trusting that he's doing something good at all times. And through that process, we were able to bring healing to hurting, wounded people and hurting, wounded countries, hurting, wounded, unfruitful lands, cursed organizations and institutions, wherever we may be. So we have necessary tools of tikkun. Do you know what your tools of tikkun are? This is about the Parsha that there's going to be, many things are going to be revealed. Many tools of tikkun, of restoration, of fixing, of healing, of the world and of the people are going to be revealed in this Parsha. It's like a mystery, but yet it unfolds and you say, oh, of course, that's what he's trying to tell us in all these things. The key word of the key tool of tikkun is blessing. Barakah. Barakah in Hebrew. And this is a beautiful word, and it runs through like a river running through this Parsha. And he blessed, and he blessed, and he blessed. And you will be blessed. And the blessing is the key tool of tikkun. If we have a relationship with the Creator, is to learn to be a blessing, to release blessings, to look at life through the lens of how can I bless that? How can I not bless the evil, not bless the immorality, not bless those things, not bless the people who are doing the dark deeds in the sense of the behavior that they are committing. Bless the nurturing ecosystem, and bless the bloodlines, and bless the individuals that they might be able to overcome their tendencies to cause harm, to cause evil. As opposed to judge them and hate them and say, make our message, you're evil. Well, that's not a good message for the kingdom. The message for the kingdom is, but you can be healed, but you can be restored, and that which you have broken can be refixed and restored as well. Well, at the end of this Parsha, we're going to find that if we read it in our minds with our intellect, if we read it with just words as on a page, as just a literature, then we're going to say there's more unsaid than there was said. There are things that seem to be left unsaid. Yaakov, for instance, is going to say, gather round my children, to all of his sons. Gather round my children, and I will tell you what will befall you in the end of days. And then he won't do it. And then he's going to talk about seemingly other things. And we're going to say, well, why didn't you say what you were going to say? Why? There are all sorts of midrashim about why that might be, but we don't know for sure. But we know that he changed his tune in the middle of his discussion, and he left it. There are certain things that are sealed until the end of days. But there are secrets, there are hints laid in what he did say, and we will find some of those as well. Not only are things left unsaid, well, we're going to find out at the end, this is not really an end. The end of the book of Genesis, the end of Vayahi, the end of this whole story of Joseph and his brothers is not really an end. It's just a segue. It's just a channel that we walk through. And so we're going to find that there's not just things left unsaid. There are things that have not yet been done. There are things left undone. One of the secrets we'll find is that when Joseph finally dies, when the last of the patriarchal team dies, he's not buried. He insists that he not be buried. He doesn't want to be buried in Egypt. He wants to be carried. Carry up my bones. When the Holy One visits you will be his legacy statement. When the Holy One's going to visit you, he's going to pakad. He's going to come into your world and call you forth and inspect you and then send you forth and deploy you. When that happens, carry up my bones with you from Egypt. And so we see this strange thing in Egypt, because Egypt is full of tombs. It's pyramids. It's the idea's fascination with death and afterlife, and so you put yourself in the right position for your afterlife. And not so with Joseph. Not so. This undone. This scandal for Egypt to have an unburied sarcophagus, an unburied coffin, an unburied box of bones testifying to the world. Something is coming. Something more will be happening. There is so much more to see. What is left undone? If we don't know what's left undone, then we won't recognize it when it starts to happen again. And we won't feel like we're part of the plan. I want to talk about, and it goes back to this idea of blessing. If you remember when in Genesis 12, 1 through 3, Abraham was called by the Holy One. This is the storyline of Genesis. Abraham was called by the Holy One. Everything else of the storyline works out of that. And the calling of Abraham was that, he would make a great nation of him, that he would be a blessing, that those who bless him will be blessed, those who curse him will be cursed. And then it goes on to say, and I will make you a blessing, you will be a blessing to every household, every family on the face of the earth. So this is what is first thing that's left undone. First thing that's left undone in the end of Genesis is that, wait a minute, we've seen Abraham do great things, and his relationship with the Holy One's been good, and we see that he's better than most in the way he's treated and the impact he's had on the world. But he hasn't seen this yet, where every family, every household on the face of the earth is blessed through Abraham and his seed. We see that promise multiplied many times. Another thing that happened is he promised Abraham that he would give to him and to his seed the land that was known then as the land of Canaan. Canaan was the Canaanites were merely possessing. They were merely occupants. They were merely occupiers of the land. But nevertheless, the Holy One promised Abraham that he and his seed would have possession, utilization, stewardship of that land forever. And from that would be the blessing to the rest of the world. That would be the source of the blessing, that the people of the covenant would be in charge of the land, and they would be using it, making it fruitful, and blessing the world from that point. That would be the strategic starting point of the kingdom message. It hasn't happened yet. Something has to be done. Something yet to be fulfilled. Well, what's the rest of the Torah? What's the rest of the prophets? What's the rest of the writings all about? It's about the fulfillment of that plan. What do the end of days hold for us? The fulfillment of that plan, where not only are we a blessing to every household and family on the face of the earth, because we learn how to control our appetites, our behaviors, control our mouth and our tongue. Control may be vessels of blessing, not vessels of cursing. Be vessels of wisdom, not blessings of people of judgmentalism. When we learn these processes, then in the end of days we'll see that we become that blessing to all the families of the earth. And in addition, you will see, and yes, we do this in Messiah. I don't mean to mislead you. That Messiah is our guide, our shepherd, the one who teaches us to do these things, our rabbi. And then in the process, the land will be restored, not just so we can say we own it, so we can use it to bless the world, so we can make it the place from which the Torah goes forth into all the nations, and healing begins to come out in waves, and restoration to lands and peoples come forth in waves. So that's some of the things that remain to be done. Another thing that remains to be done is that it was prophesied of Abraham that I have known there will be a deep knowing, but he will also teach his children and his household following, his household after him, to walk in the ways of the Holy One, to do righteousness and justice in the King's way, not in human, fleshly way. We think we know what righteousness is. We think we know what justice is. He said, no, let me reteach you, retrain you completely again, because what you're short-sighted and narrow-minded, that you, and myopic, that you really can't see what in the long range and what in the bigger picture and bigger perspective is morality, justice, and righteousness in that process. But Abraham is to teach, and his descendants are to teach their children and their household following about these things and how to walk in the way of the Holy One. Well, that's left undone. And then kings will come forth from you. You will be as the multitude of the sands of the sea, shore, and as the stars in the heavens. And we got 70, okay? 70 souls that are with us in Goshen. 67 actually, not counting Joseph, and Manasseh and Ephraim. So how do we go from 70 to, well, let's see, just at the end of Exodus, we're going to have 603,550 men over a fighting age. So we're going to have a major change just in multiplication, but it's going to be more than multiplication. We're also going to add a mixed multitude from the nations. Whoa, where did that come from? We're going to get the seeds of that laid in Parsha Vayechi. All right, so let's go a little bit further here. I want to get on my PowerPoint a little bit. We're going to learn something in Parsha Vayahi, and I have a name for it. I call it Nishmat Hayim talk. We talk a lot in the human race. We talk too much. We talk out of our heads. We talk we just talk out of everything. We talk out of nonsense. We talk like we know what we're talking about. But there's another kind of talk, and that's the talk that we are taught by our intimate relationship with the Creator of the universe. Imagine that the Holy One put His words in your mouth. Imagine that you did not speak of your own, but you only spoke what your Father was saying and what He had given you to say. That's Nishmat Hayim talk. Now, what we're going to find out in Parsha Vayechi is that Yaakov, at the end of his life, begins to flow in Nishmat Hayim talk, the kind of talk that is not just nonsense, not just conversation. It's not just small talk. It's not religious talk. It's not cliches. It's not bullet points of political or ideological argument. What he begins to talk in is life-giving talk. Nishmat Hayim. It comes from the Spirit of the living God. It comes from the heart of wisdom itself, at the throne of the Father, speaking on earth in ways through human voices. May it be like out of mine and out of yours. May out of human voices come forth the wisdom of the Holy One. Not for our glory, not for our ministry reputations, not for any of those things, but instead solely for the glory of the Holy One and for the building of His kingdom. He will release His words. We find that flowing out of Yaakov, Yisrael, as he's also called. And so we learn this is the Parsha of getting used to, getting tuned into Nishmat Hayim talk, the talk of the living soul, the living spirit. Well, that involves having perspective and cross-generational focus. So we begin to think not just in terms of what would I like to say in my flesh or in my pseudo-intellect into this particular moment, because in this particular moment it looks a certain way. No, Nishmat Hayim talk says, look, let's look at the bigger picture. Let's zoom out. And let's see what generations will flow out of this and how we can not just fix this for a few minutes to make us feel better, for our emotions and our flesh to be somehow soothed. But how can we fix this long term? How can we make tikkun and put it into bloodlines and have it reproduce itself generation after generation in such a way that the grand plan comes together beautifully, harmoniously, gloriously in shalom? Well, that's the change. Nishmat Hayim talk is conversations and transactions that are designed to leave behind a lasting blessing even after we're gone, even after we've walked away from the conversation, if we've walked away, even after we don't have conversations or meetings or visits with the people that are involved anymore, or we move from the land and go somewhere else. No matter where we are, no matter what the circumstances are, the words stay. It's called the dust of the rabbi. in the Hebrew tradition is when the rabbi's gone, you still have the dust of what he left behind. The wisdom, the earth is not the same because he's been there and he's spoken into you things that are still resonating in the earth, that are alive and that are beginning to touch and move upon your heart, your spirit, your mind, and your eternal being, and calling you forth. There's something deep in them that you just can't get out of your head. You can't get away from. It's still there. That's Nishmat Hayim talk. That's the dust of the rabbi. And that's the kind of conversations and transactions we're supposed to leave in the world. Well, the Holy One said in Joel, through this prophet Joel, he said, "Now therefore, says the Holy One, turn to me with all your heart." I just stop for a second. We're going to go on. But from Joel to get you this idea of Nishmat Hayim talk. "Now therefore, turn to me," he says, the Holy One speaking. "Turn to me with all your heart." Would you do that right now? Before we go any further, before we discuss anything else. This is the Sabbath, and there should be no competing obligations for you. Your commitment should be ceasing, and you should be able to stop and catch your breath for a few moments and do what the Holy One through the prophet called us to do. Turn to me. Turn to the Holy One, not to Bill Bullock. Turn to the Holy One. Turn to him. That means radically change your thought processes of what you're thinking about and what you're focusing on and what your energy's being spent on and what you're nervous about or worried about. Just turn to him. If you just look at him. Oh, if you just look at him. Just look at him. Just gaze in his general direction. Just think about him for a second. You understand how wonderful, how powerful, how empowering and inspiring just his very presence is. Isaiah for a few moments, and I fell on my face, and you understand the process here. This is how good he is, how more powerful and wonderful he is than anything else you could think about. So turn to me with all your heart. And he says, with fasting and with weeping, let your emotions run. Let your appetites be quelled and settled for a while. Think about what he wants to do. This is our Sabbath calling. And rend your heart and not your garments. The forms of the stuff that you're doing, the patterns that you follow, whether it's liturgy or whether it's just the order of service that you do at your meetings or just the way you normally, the routines you're normally in, that's your garments. Rend your heart. Turn your heart to the Holy One. Let him speak Nishmat Hayim talk and words into your spirit. Let those words begin to resonate in you. Well, that's what the calling is. Rend your hearts, not your garments. And turn, shuv, return, make tu sheshuva, back to the Holy One, your God. For he is gracious and merciful. Do you know his grace and do you know his mercy? I think many people focus on trying to get truth, trying to focus on what is empirically true in this moment. And we get so angry when we hear something false. And it's a natural human reaction to be offended by hearing something you sense and you know if it's false. But what if that's not really what we're here for? What if what we are here is to receive and then become channels, vessels of graciousness, the grace of the Holy One and his mercies? What if that is what changes the world? What if it is the goodness and the kindness of the Holy One, manifested through human beings, that brings about teshuvah, shuving, turning, returning? That's what he's saying here. For he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger. He is of great kindness, and he relents from doing the harm that is owed or due. Perhaps if we turn to him with all our heart, perhaps if we open up our heart and refocus and recenter on his grace and his mercy and his kindness and his goodness and his plans, perhaps he will turn himself and he will relent from all the harm that we think is natural and gotta flow because it's just. He will relent and he will leave behind, here we go, a blessing, bracha. He will leave behind a blessing. That's what he does. If we're supposed to be like him, then that's what we will do. Yaakov learns that secret. He's blessing everybody at the end of his life, at the time of his departure. So, we have the Parsha finishing the course well. I hope you understand our days on earth are, and in this life, in the mortal body, are limited. Some are closer than others. Some don't know they're closer than they thought they were. But nevertheless, here we have this idea of mortality and the fact that we will one day leave behind this mortal life on this physical earth. And when that happens, there will be no more opportunities to leave behind a blessing. And there will be those who lament, for us that we didn't finish our course well. We got angry, and we got offended, we got wounded, we became hermits, we lost our focus, we got distracted, the sickness, the illness, whatever may have happened to us, stole our soul, stole our neshama. And therefore we had some good days in our youth, and we had some good days in our middle age, or maybe our mid years, but somehow or other at the end we just sort of dried up and withered and died on the vine. No, that's not your destiny, not your calling, even if there is illness. And Yaakov, we're going to find, had eyesight problems like his father Yitzhak. Yeah, we say that in connection with this little story that we get about his blessing of Manasseh and Ephraim, and why he had vision problems, and Joseph recognized his vision problems and tried to fix it for him, which he wasn't really in need of having it fixed. But we see this issue of, even if you have physical or emotional issues that come up, traumas that you experience, Yaakov had many, your job is still to radiate the energy and the goodness of the Holy One and release blessings. Are you releasing blessings? Are you finishing the course well? Are you maintaining the course right now and then preparing yourself to finish the course well with a burst of energy? Are you willing to sow into the next generation rather than just get what you want out of this generation? Rather than just focus on what your flesh feels, what your pseudo-intellect believes or thinks or opines about different stories, or what's right and what's wrong, and what's good and what's evil, and what's moral and what's immoral, and what's just and what's unjust, and all those things that are so abstract in conceptual form. Are you here to impart a blessing and sow into the next generation? Are you a farmer? Are you just a harvester? Are you ready to farm? Are you ready to sow into children, and to sow into relatives and spouses and enemies if necessary? Sow into geographical regions. Sow into your house, and sow into your land, and sow into your city. Sow things that will reap a harvest of fruitfulness. This is the message that Yaakov seemed to learn. Even in Egypt, even in bondage, as he did in Laban's house up in Haran, to learn to sow good things, to sow the things of the kingdom and the blessings of the kingdom. Sow into the next generation, sow into the future in general. What are you leaving behind? What will be your legacy? What will be the thing that is spoken about you and about your holy King in heaven? To do so, to leave these legacies wisely. We're going to leave legacies whether we want to or not, whether we think we are or not. We're going to leave behind a residue. I just pray it will be for you, and for me, it will be a residue of life and health and peace. It will be a residue of shalom. It will be a residue of joy, a residue of hope, and a residue of emunah, of trusting that there is a new generation coming forth and good things are happening. Have you lost sight of that, or are you just the alarm signal that's saying how bad things are? That's the one question we have. Leave behind an empowering legacy. Well, what is Yaakov, Israel's legacy? If we can speak a little bit about that. What is the legacy that's going to be left behind? And we'll kind of end with that. There's much more I could talk about, and for our Biblical Lifestyle Center group, we're going to have a longer discussion beginning at 10. But here we go, or being about 10. Here's the issue that we deal with. What is Yaakov's legacy? What do we get from our father? His name is Yaakov. He was angels told him, and the Holy One confirmed that his name would also be called Yisrael. But what is his legacy? What do we draw from him? We're going to end this book. We're not going to talk about him much again. Not till the Psalms and then a little bit in the Brit Hadashah. So, what is he leaving on the earth? What is his legacy? Well, let me talk about a few of his Nishmat Hayim words. Some of the Nishmat Hayim words. And the first set comes when he's talking about Manasseh and Ephraim. He's talking to Yosef about Manasseh and Ephraim. And what he says is, Elohim, before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak walked. So he is drawing upon the first Nishmat Hayim words. Do you know your connection to your bloodline and the calling of the Holy One upon your bloodline? And that's not just for Yaakov. That's for you. As you're watching this video right now, do you know what the calling of the Holy One is upon your bloodline? Upon those who have gone before you? Some may not have walked in that calling. Some may have walked the complete opposite direction of that calling. That does not invalidate the calling. The calling of the Holy One is a powerful calling to bring about tikkun, to bring about redemption and restoration in the world, and use every bloodline and every household that he can get access to do it. So, first of all, he says, I'm going to draw on this great residue of my fathers and my legacy that's been given, the covenant that's passed on from the torch that's passed on from generation to generation, from hand to hand. So Elohim, before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak walked, and God who has fed me all my life long to this day. I want that second part to resonate with you. God who has fed me all my life to this day. Have you eaten? Have you eaten every day of your life? Have you at least had access to food every day of your life? Oh, beloved, do you understand that you have been fed for a reason, not just to keep you around a couple more days? He has fed you. This was the promise that the Holy One made to Yaakov back at Bethel, whenever the big staircase vision took place, the stairwell. And he began to say, if you will feed me, can clothe me, and take care of me, then you will be my God. And oh yeah, well here we are. At the end of his days, he's saying, God has fed me all my life long to this day. Then he goes forward and says, the Malach, the angel, the messenger who has redeemed me from all Ra, from all evil, we would say in English, but it's more than evil. It's this idea of what my world would be if I did not have you in it. That's what Ra is. Ra is what I would do on my own, of my own opinions, if I followed my own leanings, if I follow my own appetites, if I follow my own will. That's Ra. That is evil as we translate it into English, but it's more than some kind of moralistic problem. So he said, the Holy One, the Malach, who has redeemed me from all Ra. How are we doing on that? The Holy One is still, if you're alive, if you're listening to me right now, the Holy One is still working on redeeming you from all of your Ra, all of your self-will, all of your fleshly and pseudo-intellectual approaches to the world and viewpoints on the world and your perspectives on the world, as opposed to your calling, which is to be a blessing to generations and spaces and locations. So Elohim, before whom my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak walked, the God who has fed me all my life long to this day, the Malach who has redeemed me from all Ra, may he bless, here we go, may he bless not just me or not just you, Yosef. May he carry that blessing on generation after generation. May he bless, in English we read, the lads. May he bless the lads. Oh, may he bless the lads. May he bless the lads of your family, of your household. May he bless the lads and the lasses, but may he bless them all, not just one or two good specimens. May the Holy One bless all the lads and all the lasses. Let them come out of your life into your loins, out of your loins. May he bless the lads, and may he let my name, he goes on. Yaakov is speaking of these Nishmat Hayim words. Let my name, my Shem, my character, my attributes, my ways, let my Shem be called unto them. In other words, let them be recognized as part of my bloodline of bringing about the work of the Holy One, the kingdom work of the Holy One in their lives. May they carry on that legacy. And let the Shem, the name of my fathers, Abraham and Yitzhak, be also upon them. And let them grow into a multitude, grow into a great throng, a great witness throng in the midst of the earth, even though the earth, it will not cease to be what the earth is, even though the people of the earth, the nations, the Gentiles, the Goyim, the heathen, whatever phrase you wish to call them, just ordinary folk, human beings, continue to be what they are. But may the lowly one bless the lads. Bless those, and may his name, and may the names of Yitzhak and Abraham be associated with them, and may they carry on this great work. Well, this is Israel's legacy, or Yaakov's legacy. He goes on one more thing. By you, he's talking now to Manasseh and Ephraim. By you, Israel will bless. Well, this is the calling of Abraham to begin with, that we will bless. By you, Ephraim and Manasseh, this third generation, by you, as Israel will bless, saying, may God make you, establish you, deploy you, send you forth as Ephraim and Manasseh. Well, there's this mystery. Something's left unsaid. Why like Ephraim and Manasseh? Well, there are secrets we could learn from that. Who was Ephraim and Manasseh's mother? Asenat. Was she a Hebrew? Was she from the lineage of Abraham? No. But whenever Yaakov came and brought that and saw the children of Joseph and Asenat, he adopted them as his own. He engrafted them into his family. He said, it will be my children. And anyone else born to you will be yours, but these will be mine. And they will be numbered among the tribes of Israel. These are Nishmat Hayim words. These are blessings. And what he's saying to you, this is the first fruits of many, 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 many more. There will be a great multitude. We'll see it expand in the book of Exodus. We'll see this mixed multitude join with the covenant people as they come forth out of Egypt. And they go to a new dream, a new vision, and return to the land of Israel. As that happens, we'll see it, and it keeps expanding. Expanding, and this is the message of the Holy One, is we're going to expand not just numerically by reproduction in our own ranks. We will be growing because we will bring forth from the nations different peoples that will come forth and join our throne. Well, may the Holy One bless you like that. I want to go on to Joseph's legacy. Joseph's legacy, because we see these two legacies being laid in this Parsha of Vayechi. Yaakov's legacy and Joseph's legacy. I hope that you're feeling a pull and a draw. I know the politics are upsetting. I know the economy is under great strain. I know that there are sickness in the world. I know that there are personal traumas and betrayals and people who have lost loved ones, and there are sad things, and there are bereavements. I know that goes on. It's always there, and it's very real, and there are wounds that are suffered interpersonally and sometimes physically. But that's not what we're supposed to be focused upon. And the emotions that arise out of them, while they are real, are just warning signs that you're on the wrong track and you're thinking the wrong things, and you're going to hurt yourself and others by virtue of focusing intently on those emotions. No matter what the world tells you or the psychologists tell you about how you need to get them out and you need to thrive on your emotions and you live by your emotions, the Holy One says, no, that's not true. Your emotions are a warning sign. Instead, focus on the reason you're really here and the purpose for which you're here, and make out of whatever happened to you, find a way to have trust in the Holy One to make it good for you and for generations to come. So that's Yaakov's legacy. We see he's talking Nishmat Hayim talk. And then we see, what is Joseph's legacy? Joseph will die at the age of 110. And he will be his bones will be put in a box. And as we said earlier, he will ask that they carry his bones with them, up with him when they leave, when the Holy One visits. And that's a promise that's unfulfilled at that time. So what does Joseph do? What are the last things that he has to say? The first part of his Nishmat Hayim, words that he speaks, the legacy of words that he leaves, the rabbi dust that energizes and inspires and just won't leave you alone. The first thing he says to his brothers and to all of us who read these parshas are, Al tira'u. Do not let fear get you. Don't succumb to it. Have no fear. Overcome fear. Lo tira'u. Have no fear. Now, I want to speak that to you because I know there's many reasons to be afraid or be worried or be anxious. Financially, physically, emotionally, relationally, politically, economically, there are just untold amounts of reasons the world would give you to be afraid. But the first message of the covenant, the first message of Nishmat Hayim talk that he's speaking to you at this particular moment is Lo tira'u. Don't be afraid, and don't let your family be afraid. Don't let your brothers and sisters be afraid. Build each other up so you're not afraid. Fear is your Achilles heel. So lo tira'u. And he goes on. He says, as for you, you purposed Ra. You purposed that which would somehow satisfy or please your flesh. You thought getting rid of the dreamer, for instance, was going to make you feel better about the world or make you a better person in some way. You'd have to deal with the dreamer of your youth. But you purposed Ra in regard to me, but the Holy One purposed Tov. No matter what Ra we have experienced, no matter what hard things we have experienced, no matter what it is, the Holy One purposes to bring forth Tov, that which is a fountain of good for generations. A fountain like a well that's there, and once you die, it's still there. Water's there for the next generation. A fountain of Ra. Whether it's just a life lesson, whether it is a redemption story like Joseph and his brothers was, whatever it is, the Holy One has a plan to make Tov come out of every situation. As Shaul will say, God works all things together for good, for those who love him, who are called according to his purpose. And that's the message, first message. So as for you, you meant Ra in regard to me, but God has purposed Tov, L'Tovah, in order to bring it about as this day, to save many people alive. To save many people. His plan is not to judge the evil and condemn them and tear down a bunch of stuff just because it needs to be torn down. His job is his calling, his message, his plan, and we're part of it, is to save many people alive. It's fascinating in the Hebrew when you read this, because the word save is sort of implied, because really there's just two uses of the term hayah, which is life. To give life upon life. To give life upon life. To give life out of life. To give life full of life. Life upon life. Nishmat Hayim talk. Are you talking Nishmat Hayim talk? Are you talking life talk? Or are you talking death talk? And who deserves to die? And who deserves to suffer? Who deserves punishment? And who deserves vengeance? No, it's life talk. What can we do to bring about the life talk? It says, to bring many people. Now therefore, lo tira'u, don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your little ones. Now Joseph is speaking to his brothers about them and their families. But he's also speaking on behalf of the Father. If you listen to the secret messages, he's speaking what he's hearing from the Father. And so as Joseph says, I will provide for you, brothers, and for my nephews and nieces and all that stuff out there, he's only speaking what he's hearing the Father say to him and what he's hearing the Father say to us. I will provide for you, the Father says. Yes, I know it looks scary right now. Yes, I know it may feel like there's a lack. There's not enough of this and not enough of that. There's difficulty. There's trouble right here in River City. There's trouble in the world. But I will provide for you. I want you to hear that. I want you to hear this message coming forward. This is Nishmat Ha'im, words coming to you, legacy words coming to you. The Holy One will provide for you. I will provide for you and your little ones. He cares more about your little ones, your children, your grandchildren, those who attach themselves to you, your nieces and your nephews, than you do. He knows more what they need than you do. So therefore, trust him to do that. I will provide for you and your little ones. And then it says that Joseph comforted them, and he spoke kindly to them. He comforted them. And he spoke kindly. This is a legacy. Are you leaving behind a legacy of comfort? Nacham in Hebrew. A sense of setting things at peace, a place of centering where we can refocus because we're not excited and agitated about the traumas and the dramas and the pain. So he spoke comfort to them, Nacham to them. And then he spoke tender words, spoke tenderly, it says in the English. In Hebrew it says he spoke heart. He spoke heart to them, lev. He opened heart to them. Now, if you know your prophets, if you know Isaiah, if you know the seasons of the year, of the Hebrew seasons, if you know the 7 weeks of consolation and the 7 Parsha or Haftarot of consolation that we read at the end of the Torah year, right before Rosh Hashanah, right before the day of the trumpet blast. If you know those things, and you recognize what Joseph just said has been picked up by the prophet, and is the story of the latter days. He said, I will comfort you. He comforted them, nacham them, and he spoke kindly. Isaiah 40 verse 1. Speak, comfort my people, and speak tenderly from the heart. Speak the heart to Jerusalem, for her warfare is accomplished. She shall receive double. Now, this issue of are you leaving behind a legacy of comfort and of heart speech? Or are you just mouthing opinions and regurgitating bullet points from the politicians and from the ideologues and from and cliches from the pulpit? What is your words? What are you leaving behind? Are they words of comfort? Or are they words of speaking tenderly or from the heart, or outpouring the heart? And then he says, the legacy concludes with this. The legacy of Joseph concludes with this. He says, God, Elohim, will surely pachad you. He will surely visit you. Listen, beloved. Open your hearts in the deepest way. Elohim will surely visit you. You have not been left to your own devices. You will not be left to your own ingenuity or your own talents or your own education or your own learning. The Holy One, the Creator of the universe, the God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, is going to visit you. He's going to make an appointment and come into your world. Maybe a burning bush experience like Moshe had. It may be a temple, trembling pillars in the temple image like Isaiah had. It may be a whirling throne, mobile throne with cherubim and seraphim like Ezekiel, Yechezkiel saw. But he has a visitation in store for you. And it is for you and for your family and for your household and for your bloodline. Prepare yourself for a visitation. What would you do if he came today? This is Shabbat. This is the Sabbath. This is a great day for you to practice what it would be like to be in his presence, to let him come and visit you. So he will surely visit you, Joseph said. Are you telling people God is coming? He's going to visit you. Is that your message? Or are you telling them, I don't know what happened to God because the world's so horrible? And I'm saying it's not. But the Holy One is coming to visit you. Now, Joseph probably knew at this stage that as he was dying, that pharaohs were not going to be pleasant and weren't not going to be welcoming anymore. They were going to start causing bad things to happen. But in the midst of all the things that could happen, God will surely visit you. And boy, in the book of Shemot, Exodus, we are going to find God does. He's very faithful to visit multiple times over and over again. God will surely visit you, but he won't just stop with visiting you. It won't be just about a personal relationship. It won't even be about a corporate relationship. He's going to visit you for a purpose, and he will bring you up. He is going to deliver you. He's going to set you free, break your chains, and let you loose, and let you become all that you were created to be. Take off the bondages and the limitations and the restrictions that are on you, and that are on your bloodlines and your families, that are on your nation and on your world. He's going to take those off of you and let you become the fullness of the sons of the Holy One, the sons of Elohim. God will surely bring you out of this land and take you to the land, back to the land. The connection we have. This land this is the beachhead of the kingdom of heaven coming to earth. Israel, the land of Israel. It's not Texas. It's as much as I love Texas. It's not England. It's not the Philippines. It's not South Africa. Those are wonderful, beautiful lands. It is the land of Israel, the small little place at the land bridge between Asia and Europe. That is the place he has chosen. These are the things of the kingdom, fullness. He will bring you out into that land, the land concerning which he has spoken to Abraham. Do you know those promises, Abraham? Do you know the promises to Yitzhak? Do you know the promises to Yaakov concerning the land? And then finally, the legacy words, the Nishmat Haim talk of Joseph says, and you are to carry my bones up from here. Joseph's bones. They testify, they cry out, they call out across the generations, across the continents, to wherever you are. The bones speak. The bones of Yaakov are calling to you, are you carrying my legacy? Are you carrying my Nishmat Hayim words? Or have you been disconnected? Are you separated like dry bones on the countryside? Or are you resonating inside with the life and the hope of those bones? Don't just carry bones physically. Carry the whole legacy of Yosef. The forgiveness legacy, the focus and the excellence legacy. Everything he did, he stayed focused. He overcame obstacle after obstacle. He overcame betrayal after betrayal. He overcame violence. He overcame everything, false accusations, all the things that distract us and all the things that cause us to be angry and offended and get detoured away from our mission. He says, are you carrying my bones into your world? Are you carrying them today? Well, we have reached the end of the book of Genesis, the Parsha of Vayechi, the prophetic epilogue. And the segue now opens into next week we'll start the book of Exodus. We'll begin phase 2 of the grand plan for the redemption of mankind as a species, bloodline by bloodline and household by household, and for the restoration of all creation to its original intended state of beauty and fruitfulness and shalom. We're at that point. And so we look at one another and say, oh boy, we've got a long way to go. There's a lot been left unsaid. There's a lot been left undone. Give us strength, O Father, give us strength. And so at this stage in the discussion, at the end of every book of Torah, we look at each other and we say, Chazak, Hazak, v'nich chazech. Be strengthened, we talk to our brothers. Be strengthened, we say to one another. And may we all be strengthened together. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week.